Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 11. All right, before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, guys, I am getting ready for a long-awaited mommy weekend with my sister and one of my best friends. So today I am here for a good time, but not a long time. Okay, so let's just jump into it. Last night's episode, the couples celebrated their 1 month anniversary. For most of us, we're like, 1 month for this experiment. Since they're married 2 months before they have to make a decision, that's a big deal. They're halfway through. So they celebrated their 1 month anniversary. I will say this, last night's episode for me was like I'm a coffee girl, okay? Coffee is my jam. Like, last night's episode felt like the perfect cup of coffee on a cold morning, quietly. No one's awake yet, and I'm just sipping quietly. Last night's episode was warm and fuzzy all day long. It was so sweet. I was like, am I watching the same couples that I've been seeing these last few weeks? Because it was completely different. It was completely different. This episode for me was so sweet up until the very end, obviously. But this episode was so sweet. Was able to see, it was good to be able to see how they were just really getting along and celebrating each other. I will say a part of me, just because that's how my brain works, a part of me was wondering, like, how did they get to this place? Because we've seen Lindsay and Mark, Jasmina and Michael, Steve and Noit, like, recently struggling. Normal, Katina and Elijah, hello, recently struggling, and then we get to this episode and it's like, like what happened? Like, last week was Welcome to the Jungle and this week is like an aria. So although it was nice, I would have enjoyed seeing how they got to that. Let's kick it off with Jasmina and Michael, because that's the first group that I thought was like, wow, what a complete 180. They celebrated their 1 month. They always talk about how perfect the wedding day was, essentially, how much fun they had, how great that was, what a great memory that was, getting back to that. The thing for me is, that was the first day you guys met, and that, like, although that was nice, it's like the fact that they haven't been there since then, and they're like, man, that was so great. That means pretty much the entirety of their union has not been good. So it's like getting back to that sometimes, and this is a lesson for everyone, myself included, because I'm like, I want to get back to my pre-baby body or whatever. The reality is, when you've gone to particular things or you've gone through particular things, getting back to is a state of mind that is really unhealthy. It doesn't exist. Getting back to the body before you carried a baby, you might be in better shape after. However, that body before never carried a child. So even if this new body is in better shape than you were technically before, it is still a new body because it's carried a baby. So that's the same kind of thought process I had with them. It's like you're getting back to the stage where reality wasn't even, a thing. It was kind of like, this is new, this is fun, this is exciting. Reality set in. You guys are now seeing how you're showing up in a marriage, because I always say marriage is a mirror. Sometimes there's only aspects of yourself that you can see in a marriage. And so now you're seeing these things. You're seeing how maybe ugly you're showing up, how you don't like this other person, or things you need to work on, things they need to work on. So I would like, jot in there if I could and say, like, let's not say let's get back to that, because that isn't even who you guys are now. You couldn't get back to that, because most of that was the excitement and the newness of it all. That doesn't exist anymore. But I did love how they kind of, turned a chrysalis into a butterfly, and like, okay, we know these things now. We've experienced these up and downs. Let's recreate that with who we are now. I loved the new vows that they created based on who they are now. I thought that was so sweet. Is there work to be done? For sure. How, of course, I started thinking, well, how are you guys gonna do these things? Like, what things are you implementing? But just for the sake of just having a good time and enjoying it, I really love seeing that. And I think that that's like a really good exercise for couples to do. If you've been married a couple of years or even a year, reevaluate and say, hey, what can we be doing better? What can we vow based on what we now know? I think that I love that idea. So I really enjoyed watching Jasmina and Michael. It was great to see a softer side of Sears with Jasmina. I mean, I'm dating myself if you know that phrase, but it was just nice to see this. And I was like, where has this been? Because I feel like we've just seen angst the last 4 weeks, just constant miscommunication. So when they're like, we've grown so much and we've changed so much, we've been having so much fun. And, she on After Party said that this is the most fun she's had in a relationship and they laugh all the time. I would have just loved to see just a snippet of how y'all got there. Because last week, you guys know I went in on her. She really did not present herself in the best way and they were really struggling. And listen, marriage can be that ugly sometimes in terms of communication. It could be even worse. But I would have loved to see like a little bit of how they're getting there so that they can continue to get there. The one note I will make with Jasmina and Michael is that there's really no physical touch there. A little bit. I'll take it back. There's a little bit of physical touch, but it's still very like intro to intimacy. I don't think they kissed one time last night. And I don't necessarily think that Jasmina is attracted to him. I think that if they grow in love, then it will come for her. I really do. But right now, it's like last night's episode was such a beautiful representation of their dynamic when they're in a good place. But then there was like not even one kiss. So then I'm like, what's that about? I mean, I know what it's about, but I hope if they can work together to actually creating a significant union, I hope that that they're able to get there, because there's room for like a beautiful situation there if they can get on the same page. All right, so that's Jasmina and Michael. Next we have Lindsay and Mark. So I thought Lindsay and Mark had a great episode as well. All the couples had a great episode for the most part. Lindsay and Mark, here's the thing. I really enjoyed seeing Mark kind of step into Lindsay's world. Lindsay is a little quirky. She has a unique interest in things, and he dove right in, knowing really what she would like, what was specific to her. And I think that was speaking her love language, the 5 love languages. And then there's more because there's so many books about them and extensions of them. But they're physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and there's one more, it'll come to me. But he really spoke to what she really is into, very specific, and she appreciated that. And that was speaking her language of needing that affirmation that he really cares and he's paying attention and he is tuned in. Because the reason why she acts ugly at times is because she will jump right in, and if she feels like it's not being reciprocated or she feels that he is not into it, then she lashes out. And so showing very detailed expression of here's the things that you like very specific, is showing her that, hey, he's paying attention, he likes me, he cares about me. And at the end of the day, whether you like her or not, it's important to be able to show love to your partner in the way that they receive it, not necessarily the way that you like it or the way that you think they should have it. Because a lot of couples don't get that. Someone likes gifts, so they gift, and that person may need acts of service or quality time. That's the last one. Quality time, words of affirmation. And if they're not getting it the way that they feel it, then it's missed opportunities all the time. So that was really good to see. The note that I will make, because I thought that the little tree house or whatever, the little tent, I thought that was cute for her. And it was good to see Mark get in touch with how he really feels and how he could feel given the room, because she's like this all the time, and Mark is a little more reserved and he's a little more of an internal processor. So it was good to see him kind of take it in and maybe take a piece of who she is in outside of kind of the big loud personality, and I saw a good connection with them. I hope that Mark isn't like laying it on extra thick to assure her, but still feeling like he's not in it. because I get that vibe from him that like he keeps hearing this, so now he's doing it. I think he's genuinely wanting to do these things, but I hope that he's not doing it to a fault to where he is now not getting what he needs. Let me give her what she needs because she's been asking for this, but yet I'm still not getting what I need, or maybe I'm afraid of her response, and so let me kind of just do this without getting that. I hope he gets what he needs as well. The one note that I will make, and like I said, I think they had a great episode, but the one note that I will make is Lindsay finding a way to make it about herself. So at the beginning of the episode, she did a good job about saying, hey, I support you. Like when he was talking about getting a job and needing to get a job. She says, and a lot of spouses wouldn't say this, so this is where I was like, great job, Lindsay. She says, hey, I don't think you need to get a job just to get a job. Maybe get something that's fulfilling, something that you're excited about. That's great. And that gives him room, if he was under pressure, maybe of what she may have been thinking, that gives him room to breathe a little bit. But Mark, and we don't know what we have going on. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to just do what they love. And so it's like, I need money. And Mark is like, I gotta work. I have to do these things. And she's saying, maybe you can slow down and we can talk about these, and she throws out kids and get to know me for a week. And it's like, okay, here's where she was on a rise, and then she just, like, the roller coaster just stopped working and it fell all the way back down. She made it about herself. You don't, like, essentially it's about what Mark needs and what Mark wants to do, what Mark doesn't want to do. Because Mark is sitting here like, I'm out of a job. Like, they told him not to, come back after he's done filming. I need to work. That is not the time, girl, to bring up children and getting to know you better. Like, there's certain fundamental basic needs that people have to have in order to really dive into anything else. Like right now, yeah, you're his wife, but like food, shelter, water, those things are important. And just because they're on a show, that doesn't mean that that's going to stop. His bills are not going to stop. And so instead of like finding a way or learning to shift the way that she shows support, because that's her big thing. I'm supportive. I'll support you. I'll support you. I'll support you. But hers sometimes comes with contingencies. I'll support you if you do it like I want you to do it. That would have been a good time to pivot and not make it about you, or maybe take a beat and later on when you guys are having a conversation say, hey, I said this and you said you weren't into it and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make this a thing in my head. So is it that you're just not into kids? You're not into me? Or is it that you're just stressed about money or work? Have that dialogue at a different time. But when he's talking about he needs to work and you're like, well, what I'm hearing, it's all about Mark and it's not about Lindsay and we don't want to talk about kids. And Mark, you damn right I don't want to talk about kids right now. I don't have a job. So I'm like, poor Mark. Because if there was a third party in that conversation, that would have been the time that I said, like, Lindsay, take a beat here. Listen to what he's really saying. What's behind that? Maybe fear, maybe some things that you don't know about because you guys have been married for 5 minutes. Like, let's listen and let's support him where he is now. He married a stranger 4 weeks ago. So kids and marriage and focusing on his wife is not that it's not a priority, but today when I'm getting emails alerts about these bills being due, like today, no, I don't want to talk about kids. And that's okay. And that's not a reflection of how he feels about you. So that's the only thing. And she has a tendency to do that where it circles back to her and she just can't see in the moment. And because I'm supportive and I'm doing it this way and you're not doing it this way, then it's a problem. And no, it's not a problem. She's the problem in those moments. But overall, I'm going to come back to my zen with them. Overall, I think they did a pretty good job. Next, we have Steve and Noi. So Steve and Noi, once again, I think they had a great dynamic, a great episode. You can tell that they're really genuinely into each other. The job thing came up again. And honestly, I feel unclear about the job thing now. Is it that you don't, and it's here's the thing. We're all saying he might have savings. They can be okay. He may have things that he hasn't discussed with her. They need to have a real deal Holyfield conversation. Like, what is it that you want? Why is it that it's important to you? Not that it's a problem that it's important to you, but why is it, to really hear what you want out of this. Steve, when you signed up for this experiment and you thought that you were going to switch gears and maybe do something else, what is the plan there? It doesn't have to be traditional. What is the plan for income? Like, and then what is the plan for that income to keep coming in? You know, knowing that at any point, hey, if you have a traditional job, you can lose your job at any point. Hey, if you are an entrepreneur, there might be some months that are up, some months that are down. What is the plan? And if there's a real plan, not kind of like, here's the thing, because it's like, I'm going to work on my dreams. I have these things. That's great when you've been with someone or you give somebody room for that. But when you marry somebody 4 weeks ago at the altar and they have an idea of what they want, it's not really going to change in a matter of 4 weeks because this is who you are. If they would have met organically, then she could have decided to roll with it or not, or maybe she could have been with him while he was doing his main career and then he's deciding to pivot and she'll roll with it. But that's off of the strength of knowing who he is and knowing what the plan is. They have to have like a cameras off, although I would like to see it. Conversation with each other about what does this look like? What's the plan to get there, et cetera, because what they're going through right now is something that is totally fixable. And it's not like he's saying, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I am just going to be a house husband. Now, if that's your setup and you decide that with your spouse, that's fine, but that wouldn't be fine for Noi. It's not like he's saying he's not doing anything, but at this point, I'm like, well, what is the plan? Because she needs to have one. And if you guys are talking about family planning, there does need to be a plan where we can put some things into place and know what's happening, and not have one spouse resentful of each other because you're kind of just rolling with it and hoping it'll work. And with plans, I love target dates. Obviously, those dates can be moved depending on what's happening, but one of the things that I think is important for goals is coming up with an action plan and a target date to give yourself the space to do that, but also like the pressure to know that, okay, time is up soon. Do people always meet the target date? No, but when it's there, you move very differently if you're serious. But at this point, the back and forth of we know what she wants, we know what he wants. Now they have to really figure it out together. And I think that would be a good conversation to have with a third party, one who is more assertive and helping them really bridge that talk. Not like a third party who's just sitting there and watching and maybe giving like a little bit of a 2 cents, but not much. No, like help them because they may not have the tools to really get to the nitty gritty or get to or really know how to ask the question that needs to be asked because they're probably listening to respond or they're probably afraid in their mind. So like a great third party who could say, okay, well, Steve, what is the target date? If you have 6 months from now, what is happening in these 6 months that would help compromise with what she wants? And are you willing to compromise? Because if you're not, then let's go ahead and make a decision now. Not that I would push them to make a decision now, because I think they're great together and really no third party should push them to make any decision. But also like, let's like wake up a little bit, like seesawing with this stuff, hoping that it'll work itself out without asking like direct, questions that may be uncomfortable or setting dates or doing something is just gonna elongate what may not work out because of just miscommunication and an inability to know how to create that. So that's my thing for Steve and Noi. They're still my fave in terms of how they're getting along and really their easiness and natural kind of dynamic. All right, next we have Katina and Elijah. I ain't gonna hold y'all. Okay. They had a great episode, yada yada. But let's just move on to the dinner, okay? The dinner where on the way in the van, Elijah asked to borrow Katina's phone and he saw something he didn't like, didn't say anything about it until they're all talking and, meeting in the middle with noodles and kissing at the table and having a good time. He kind of throws it out there in front of the group that there's something that he saw that makes him question if the marriage is like real marriage or if it's friendship, if their chemistry is like marriage chemistry or friendship chemistry. And makes kind of everyone uncomfortable. And I like that Katina said, no, we're not going to talk about this here because you didn't bring it up yet. I don't know what it is. So we'll talk about it at home. I like that she held it together. I like that even then, even though she could have turned up a little bit more, she set the boundary of what she was willing to do in that space. It basically was, she had a old dating app with, the profile was not active or even logged on or whatever. It was on her phone, not active, old, and he blows up about that. Couple of things with Elijah Wan. I don't like, and I don't think that anybody should, I don't like him throwing it out there to the group, but not saying what it is. I don't like him throwing it out there to a group. One, those are two separate things. I don't like him throwing it out to a group. Don't like him not saying what it is. If he truly was invested in doing this the best way possible, as soon as they got off that bus, order us 2 waters. We'll see you in 5 minutes. And he would have pulled her aside. At the very beginning of the season, I said he wears his passions, and his passions are at like a 10. He's very passionate no matter what he's feeling. And that's going to be a problem. And it is a problem. He should have pulled her aside. The way that you act with your spouse in front of people only teaches them and allows them to do the same. So if you have a respect for your relationship to where you keep private things private, then people are not going to be all in your business, because they're going to know that you don't play that. But he basically set the scene so that he can entertain everyone, I guess, and said that, but then didn't even let her know what it is. So now she's uncomfortable. And for me, that's manipulative and controlling, because now you're controlling the rest of the dinner. We've all been around that couple who like starts arguing and you just want to be anywhere but there because it's uncomfortable. So you're ruining everyone's time. So you're controlling the dynamic of the dinner, and you're controlling that now you've put your spouse in a position where they're uncomfortable, and they're also like, I don't want to say afraid, but like anxious, and you're controlling when they get to know, instead of just being an adult and saying, here's what happened. What is this about? There's a lot of things that could be squashed by just asking the question. You don't have to like do this whole thing. And I know that they're new, but like you guys also did just get married at the altar. So I wish he would have just done it that way without all the drama and without ruining everyone's time, because it was such a beautiful dinner. And they were going around and just kind of sharing their feelings. They get home and he basically explodes. He's yelling. Listen, when you yell, people are not listening anymore. It's defense mode. And for her, I could see how she was kind of like trying to control herself, and also like recalling, like you can kind of see it in somebody's face when they're recalling experiences that they've had, because they know that this won't go well. So this is like, he is so here that she has to remain here, not because she really wants to, but because she doesn't know how much higher that he can go based on how he's acting. Asking that question and her saying, this is old, it's not even active, I don't even have a profile on here, I forgot. Listen, that could have been squashed. And I recall, was it last season where I forgot his name. I want to say it was Ryan, but I could be wrong. When he literally was with his wife and he had activated a dating profile, matched with someone who knew her, and then reached out to her and said, hey, I just matched with your boy. And she had to come and say, why are you actively on a dating profile and he gave this bogus excuse. Oh, I shut it down as soon as I did that. I shouldn't have. No, but you're on it. You just matched with someone 2 days ago. Like, this is a very current, present thing. That wasn't her situation at all. I get him here. I'll give him this nugget, just this small nugget. I get him feeling a way about it because that initially triggers anyone. Why is this on your phone? I took mine off the moment I got matched. Like, are you in this? Is that I get the questions, but it's the way you go about it, because she really didn't do anything except forget to delete that. Wasn't active. There's no profile. Like all of the questions, you could literally see that it wasn't as big of a deal as he was making it. And I think it's because the little nugget I'm giving him is because he's falling for her, possibly, or he's in it and he does not want to get got. He doesn't want to put himself in the situation where he's being like in free fall 100%, and then this person turns around and uses that against him or isn't in it, and now he's really, really hurt. But there's still a way to go about it. And there's still a way to share. Listen, that for me is not okay. I know you're not using it, but the way that it looks for me, the moment that and you're not the same person, but the moment that I got matched, I took all of that stuff off because I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that was getting in the way. And it's important that you're in the same place, blah, blah, blah. There's a way to express that because that would be concerning for everyone. But going about it, it didn't have to get to a 10 because she easily explained it. She showed it. She didn't even know what's on it. That's why she's like, here, take my phone. I mean, what is it? And it didn't have to go there. And that is just one example of his inability to really communicate his emotions in a healthy way. And that's a problem. I watched After Party and Jasmina was saying that, she was really upset at the table for Katina because they're very close. And I think one of the questions was something like, how do you feel when, he gets like that. Something like that. I could be making this up. But I know that Jasmina answered, listen, this is how O gets. And then he usually very quickly shifts. Here's the thing with that. And I said this a few videos ago. It's not about him quickly calming down. It's about the fact that people have to walk on eggshells or have to be afraid about that moment where he isn't calm. It's not about him catching himself after the fact. He has to get to a point when he catches himself before to respond in a way that's not so dangerous or not so dismissive or not so exacerbated. He has to get to that. Yes, there are situations that if you see or if you walk into something or you see something, yes, there are situations where you can go from 0 to 100 and there's no stopping you because yes, those things are obviously disrespectful, overtly wrong. Yeah, but those are few and far between, hopefully. But when there's misunderstandings, you have to learn to give yourself that grace, learn to ask the questions so that you act appropriately because this whole thing didn't have to be as grand as it was. And it's just an example of how he is in all things. And that's a problem. And that really needs to be worked out because there's certain things that you do and say that you can't take back. So that's my 2 cents on Katina and Elijah. She did better than me with responding to that. Just because, okay, maybe I'm wrong, I didn't take it off or I forgot. But the way that you communicate, is that can really be the predecessor to how the conversation goes. And they could have had a good night. They could have finished that out or maybe not because they're so young in it. But I could see a couple a little more seasoned could have had a conversation okay, well, get that off your phone because that makes me feel away. And they could have moved on. I apologize. You're right. And on After Party, she said she tried to apologize, but he wasn't ready to receive that. But I think that he was at a level where even logic wasn't going to make sense. And it was too much. There's times that I'll give people, I get it. Okay, this is what's happening or this is the way it looks, but it was too much. And we've seen him high a lot instead of more balanced. And the irony is she was saying that he's become more calm and, you can tell when people are triggered how they really are or how they have changed. And last night didn't show much of that. All right, that's it. I gotta go. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. As always, don't forget to subscribe and share and comment. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.